Hello and welcome back to inmr. In today's podcast, I'm going to be ranking 15 of the top academy graduates in the Premier League. So we've got a few players here, obviously couldn't put all of them in, but we've got a few of the best ones and we're going to be having a look at how far I think they can go and their overall career potential. So the bottom one is hit his peak, so this is pretty self-explanatory. They can't get any better than they are now and they've hit their maximum potential. He's getting there we've seen quite a bit of him this season and they've been impressive, but they haven't been on the scene long enough to go up to the next tier. Established player, this is if they've been on the scene for a couple of seasons now, 1 or 2 seasons, and have been doing very well, and you can see that there's clearly talent there. World-class potential, this is somebody that you can see going right to the top straight away or is pretty much there. And Ballon d'Or contender is the best of the best, going to be nominated every year for a Ballon d'Or, coming in the top 5, always getting really close, one of the elite players across world football. People seem to enjoy the last tier list video, so I thought I'd do another one. If you haven't watched that one already, make sure to go and check it out. We were ranking the summer signings from the start of the season. So yeah, if you haven't seen that, be sure to go and watch it. But let's start off with Rico Lewis, as he's at the front. For me, he's between established player and he's getting there. He's definitely not hit his peak. He's got a long way to go. I'm impressed with what I've seen, but I don't think he's established fully yet. Obviously, we saw a bit of him last season towards the end. We've seen more of him this season, but I still wouldn't consider him an established player yet compared to some of the other youth talents that are going to be in that section. So for me, he's getting there. I think another season at this level, proving that he can keep up with the rest of the Man City squad, would put him in established player. But for now, he's getting there. Next one is Marcus Rashford. Now this is going to be pretty harsh, but I think it has to be. I think he's hit his peak, to be honest with you. I think no matter what he does now, he's never going to get better than what he did last season. I just think he's too up and down. He's just inconsistent for me. Yes, he can be good for a whole season. You could say, oh, that's consistent. I don't think it is. I think you need to be performing every season, not just doing it for half a season, then being rubbish for the whole of next season, then coming back towards the end. It's not good enough. I don't think he's going to get better than what he was for the second half of last season after the World Cup. So for me, he's hit his peak, which is a shame really, because he should be one that we're putting up here. Nobody would think that we'd be putting him in the bottom tier, but something's just not quite right with Marcus Rashford, and unfortunately I do think he has hit his peak. Connor Bradley, now this is a very fresh one that's just come onto the scene. He's getting there. Like I said, he's not been around long enough to be an established player, but he is certainly somebody that is going to be pushing up them tiers and will be very important for Liverpool in years to come. You can see the talent that's there. He is a brilliant footballer, but we just haven't seen it over an extended period of time. Kobbie Mainoo, he's got world-class potential. I mean, I know we haven't seen a lot of him, but this is one where it's so obvious how good he is. He's just got something different to these people in the 4th tier. You can just see it, and when you see it, it's so obvious that he's going to go so far. And yeah, for me, he's got world-class potential. He's one of the only players in that United squad that you can see just wants it. I think sometimes with United, they just sort of give up a little bit and cruise through games even if they're not doing well, just to essentially, it sort of feels like they're just trying to get it over and done with sometimes, United. But Mainoo is just one of them who, yeah, he's just got that something special, and even at just 18, 19, you can see he's going to go really far. Nketiah, I mean, unless he moves, he's hit his peak. He doesn't seem to want to push for that move away. I think he should be looking for them loan moves to a different Premier League club. It's not going to be a top 6 side, we know that, but he needs to get some minutes under his belt. He needs to get some more experience, and it doesn't seem as if he's willing to do that. Same with Emil Smith-Rowe. He had the opportunity to go in the January window and was just like, no, I'm going to fight for my place at Arsenal. It's not going to happen. So in my opinion, he's hit his peak unless he makes a move to a different club, gets some minutes, and then builds his way back up to a top 6 side and becomes an established striker and proves himself at the top level. He has hit his peak. Harvey Elliott, okay, he's an established player in my opinion. A few people don't like him, think he's inconsistent. I think at the start he was, same as a lot of young players. They start off really well, drop off a little bit just to normal level where they don't perhaps shine and people go, oh, they're rubbish, yeah, it was just a few game thing. But that's not the case. Harvey Elliott is a good player. He's proved it over a good few seasons now. You can say the same for Curtis Jones, who we'll put in there straight away. They've both had their critics because they came onto the scene so young, did well. I mean, Curtis Jones scored the absolute worldie against Everton, I believe. And everyone was like, right, he's the next best thing, England's midfielder. And then he didn't even drop off. He wasn't playing badly. He was just all right. He was just doing what he needed to do during the games, doing the basics fine. And apparently that means that he's no good anymore. But I do think they're both established players who we know are good and have proved themselves in a Liverpool side that is performing really well. Final Liverpool player is Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's got world-class potential. I don't think he's a Ballon d'Or contender purely because, unfortunately, defenders just don't get put forward for it. If he actually cemented himself in a midfield role, I could see him then going up there, but at the minute he is a right back that should be playing in centre mid. So he's got world-class potential. He's probably already there, but he's just not quite a Ballon d'Or contender for me because very often you don't see defenders being Ballon d'Or contenders. If he becomes a centre mid and we see more of what he can do in the middle of the park, then there's no doubt that he would go up to the top tier. Phil Foden, I think he's a Ballon d'Or contender. His technical ability is absolutely ridiculous. He's so good with his feet. He's one of them where you just watch him and he just glides past people. You saw it the other day against Brentford. People say he's not a big game player. He only scores when City are 4, 5, 6-0 up. He's not. He is a very good player. He's one of the best of this new England generation. And for me, yeah, he is a Ballon d'Or contender because he will go beyond world class. And the only way you can go beyond that is by being in contention for these sort of awards, which I do think is definitely on the cards for him. Lewis Miley of Newcastle, we've seen glimpses of very good stuff from him, but of course he's only just burst on the scene, so he's got to be and he's getting there. He's someone you can see becoming an established player. Newcastle can't afford to bring loads and loads of players in, so this is one that you can see them nurturing because he is a homegrown talent. He costs nothing. He'd be pure profit in a few years if they decided to sell him. So he's got everything with him to become a top player at Newcastle and get a move if he wanted it. We've hardly seen anything from him to put him any higher. Same with Oscar Bob. You know, we know that he's a good player. We know that he's going to do well. I can't see him being at City for ages. I don't know how he's ever going to get into that team. He's not going to become an established player at City, but I think he's got the ability to become an established player elsewhere. Jacob Ramsey, established player in my opinion. We've seen him for a few years now at Villa and he's done well, held his own. You want to say they've missed him while he's been out injured, but they've done really well when he was. It's definitely a big boost that he is back. And yeah, we've seen his talent over enough time now to see that he is a good player. He's cemented himself in a top club and as a key player at that club. Jack Hinchelwood, he's getting there. Once again, he's only really come on this season. I think he made his debut at the end of last season, but this year he's really become a first team player. He's done really well. He will become an established player and he will become somebody in that Brighton lineup that is one of the first names on the team sheet. Is going to become a Lewis Dunk, a Pascal Gross, where you just know they're going to start every single game because he's that good, and you can see that glimpses of his game. You just think, wow, that is a top player. It's only been half a season of seeing his talent, so therefore he can't go up to the next one. Bukayo Saka goes up there with Phil Foden in my opinion. He's been brilliant for a good few years now. He's one of the irreplaceable players in that Arsenal side. World class, he's getting there. There's always an argument whether or not he is, but I think in a few years, once he's hit his peak, he will definitely be in and around that top 3 for Ballon d'Or contention in my opinion, just because he's so good and important for Arsenal. Finally, we've got Lewis Dunk, the eldest player on this list, and he's unfortunately hit his peak, but that's not to say that he's a bad player and can't go any further. He keeps going further the older he gets, but 32 now, I personally can't imagine him doing anything more than what he's done over the last 2 or 3 years. He could have got that move to a top 6 club, said no. He's become a club legend, secured European football. In their first crack at European football, they've got to the knockout rounds. You know, that's coming up in about a month's time. He is such a good defender and he has saved Brighton's skin so many times. But yeah, at 32, can you see him doing any more? He's not going to take them to the Champions League. He's not going to move to a top 6 club and become the vital centre-back that a top 6 club needs. He has got to the best level that he possibly could, and now he's just maintaining it. So for me, he's hit his peak, but he is an absolutely brilliant defender. That is my tier list. Obviously, people are going to put players higher, lower. That is what I think of the current top 15 academy graduates. There might even be players in here that you think should have gone in that didn't make it. But for me, this is what the top 15 look like. So that is the end of the podcast. But before I go, I'm just going to show you some of the extra bits you can see from INMR. Obviously, podcasts are once a week, but there is other stuff going on in between those coming out that you don't want to miss out on. So if you follow the INMR Instagram page, you get all the updates on what's going on stories, all the posts to do with podcasts, articles, stuff like that. It's the same for the Twitter page. It gives you updates on when new articles are out, new podcasts, score updates, and when the window's open. We do transfer news as well, so make sure to follow those to get all the updates when anything is out, not just podcasts, but there's always something going on. And if you haven't already, go and check out the INMR website. This is where all the articles get uploaded. Every week we do little roundups on all of the Premier League games, so you can see what's going on with the podcast, all the score updates, games of the week, loads of stuff, as well as little stories that have gone on throughout the match week, as you can see here. So yeah, go and have a look at those if you haven't already. There's loads of extra content on there to check out. That is where I'm going to end today's podcast. Thank you very much for listening, and I will see you in the next one.